We're always told that nice guys finish last, right? But what if being nice actually yields the highest return on investment? Welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here because we're unpacking something truly special today. We're looking at a classic Hindi folktale that explores a concept we honestly kind of take for granted: the profound, transformative power of simply being nice. We live in a world that constantly tells us kindness is a weakness, that you've got to be ruthless to get ahead. But this beautiful, centuries-old narrative completely flips the script. It frames being nice not just as a nice-to-have moral virtue, but as a tangible, high-yielding investment. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this question right here is the absolute heartbeat of our story. Meet our protagonist, Dhiru, and his wife, Kajri. They're poor laborers, literally destitute. And when our story kicks off, they are trapped in a relentless, week-long rainstorm. And I don't mean a cozy, sit-by-the-fire kind of rain. I mean a massive deluge that is actively destroying their meager lives. They're watching their livelihood literally wash away. It's the absolute perfect setup to ask, when the universe is throwing every single hardship it has at you, do you harden your heart, or is it still worth it to be nice?
Part 1. A storm of hardships. So, the crucial point is, to really understand the choices Dhiru makes, we've got to look at his brutal reality. Dhiru is braving this devastating rainstorm just to seek daily wage work from a notoriously cruel local landlord named Thakur Durjan Pratap. His roof is leaking, his entire home is soaked, but he's battling something way worse than the weather: intense social stigma. The villagers cruelly label him a manhus, which translates to a jinx or a cursed person. And why on earth do they hate him? Simply because he's an orphan. He has no relatives, no family backing him up, no safety net whatsoever. In this tight-knit community, his lack of family completely isolates him. They mock him, they treat him with open hostility. He is entirely alone against the world. Just look at how the odds are completely stacked against him here. The poverty and the weather combine into this devastating domino effect. First, the leaky roof. Dhiru actually manages to earn a day's wage, but because he's soaked, the paper money gets wet. Kadri tries to dry it, but of course, the roof leaks directly onto the money, tearing it and rendering it completely worthless. So this forces him back out into the rain, which leads to severe fevers, which eventually causes him to make a critical mistake at work, leading to him getting fired and massively in debt. It's like the universe is practically begging Dhiru to just give up and become bitter.
Let's move to part 2 and see how this builds. Choosing to be nice.
Right in the middle of this terrible streak of bad luck, when Dhiru is at his absolute rock bottom, he makes a radical choice. It's evening, he's heading home, wet, broke, and just totally exhausted from being bullied all day. Through the blinding rain, Dhiru spots a stranded couple, Raman and Janki, shivering under a tree. Now, let's be real. Most people in Dhiru's position would just put their heads down and keep walking, right? He's got no money, a ruined house, zero social capital. But Dhiru chooses to be inexplicably nice. He flat out refuses to leave these absolute strangers out in the cold. Without a second thought, he insists they come take shelter in his modest, leaky home. I absolutely love this quote from his wife Kajri. When he brings two complete strangers home, she doesn't complain about the lack of food or the wet walls. No, she says, "This is our duty. After all, guests are a form of God." This is such a beautiful reflection of the ancient cultural tenet Atithi Devo Bhava, meaning the guest is equivalent to God. So despite all the cruelty the world has thrown at them, Dhiru and Kadri choose to respond with radical, unwavering niceness. Look at the stark juxtaposition here. Outside their door is a village that calls Dhiru a jinx and a boss who exploits him. But inside, it is an absolute masterclass in radical hospitality. They welcome Raman and Janki unconditionally. Kadri enthusiastically cooks up a massive feast with whatever meager supplies they have left. They literally stay up late laughing and bonding like they've known each other for years. And get this, later, when Raman offers to help Dhiru at work, Dhiru tries to stop him from going out in the rain to protect his guest's health, which unfortunately results in Dhiru braving the storm alone while he's sick himself. I mean, that is next-level niceness. Which brings us to part 3, the ultimate test. Because, of course, no good deed goes unpunished, right? We have to bring the narrative back to the crushing reality of Dhiru's work life. The very next day at the warehouse, his incredible kindness to his guests comes at a massive personal cost. He's severely weakened by the fever he caught protecting them, and his exhaustion finally catches up to him. His hands slip, and he accidentally drops a single sack of Tuckor's grain straight into the floodwaters, ruining it completely.
And the other villagers, who have just been waiting for an excuse to ruin him, immediately drag him to the cruel landlord. And this is how the landlord responds. He doesn't just ask for the cost of the single sack, oh no. He demands, no, you must repay 3 times the amount. You cannot return to work until you do. It is incredibly cruel. It's the absolute peak of unfairness, guys, punishing an already starving, sick man with an impossible 3-to-1 debt ratio, and firing him on the spot so he has absolutely no way to earn the money back. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer impossibility of the situation. This is our cliffhanger. Diru goes home completely broken. He's a penniless, sick man. He has a wife to feed, guests staying in his house, and a massive triple debt hanging over his head to an absolute tyrant. Logically, financially, socially, he is ruined. How could he possibly survive this? Part 4. The Reward of Kindness. This brings us to the heartwarming, incredible climax of our explainer. What Diru doesn't know is that his guests, Raman and Janki, secretly overheard him and Kadri crying in the next room over this impossible debt. Now let's contrast these two men for a second. Diru is materially poor, sure, but he is incredibly rich in kindness, warmth, and hospitality. Raman, it turns out, is actually a massively wealthy city merchant, but he considers himself poor because he has no family, no genuine relationships. You see, Raman and Janki had intentionally hidden their immense wealth when they were stranded. Why? Because they were terrified people would only want to be close to them for their money. They were looking for someone who would just be nice to them simply for who they are. And Diru, he passed that test with flying colors.
Let's walk through this rapid-fire sequence of events, because it's so good. The very next morning, Raman steps up. First, he easily pays off Takur's massive debt, literally throwing the money right in the cruel landlord's face. Then, knowing Diru is completely trustworthy and genuinely kind, Raman offers him a lucrative business partnership in the city. Overjoyed by this, Kadri gifts Diru a brand new kurta to wear for his new life. And as Diru is changing his shirt, Raman spots a very familiar, highly unique birthmark on Diru's neck. And this brilliantly illustrates the emotional climax of the whole story. Get this. It turns out they have the exact same mark. Raman pulls back his collar to reveal it. The wealthy city merchant and the poor, bullied, supposedly cursed orphan are actually long-lost brothers. Their instant connection, that unexplainable warmth they felt for each other on that freezing, stormy night, wasn't just strangers being nice. It was the unbreakable bond of family calling out to them. 0. That's the number representing what Diru now owes to the cruel Thakur. Absolutely nothing. By simply making the choice to be unconditionally nice to strangers in a storm, Diru wiped out his debts. But man, it goes so much further than that. He gained a wealthy business partner. He gained the loving brother and family he had literally ached for his entire life. And according to the folktale, he and Raman build their business together, and Diru eventually becomes the richest, most highly respected man in the very village that once completely shunned him.
Which leaves us with this final, vital question to ponder. When the world is raining down hardships, we're so often told to build walls, to protect what little we have, to view strangers with suspicion. But this explainer shows us a completely different path. Diru's radical niceness wasn't a naive vulnerability. It was the key that unlocked his entire destiny. So, I have to ask you, in a harsh world, is kindness just a weakness? Or is it actually the ultimate investment? Think about that the next time you have the opportunity to just be nice. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this wonderful story, and as always, keep learning.